Hi again, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Alumni Chats, a weekly podcast featuring alumni from the Department of Broadcasting and Journalism here at Western Illinois University. My name is Buzz Hoon. I'm the host of the podcast, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Clay Koenig from the class of 1992. Clay, it does not seem possible that it has been almost 30 years.
It's unreal, Buzz, and it's good to see you, and you look fantastic. You and I go to the same barber now, and I remember when we were in school, we had great heads of hair. I mean, my hair was so thick at one time I couldn't even put my hands through it, and now it's just a memory, I guess.
That's right. That's every once in a while I tell the students when I'm in class, I said I have this memory of having hair and pushing it back. But so let's talk about where you are. Let's give everybody an update of what's going on in your life.
Sure. Well, right now I am the president and general manager of the NBC affiliate in Decatur, Illinois. I received that title. This is my third week. I've actually been here 12 years, and they've kind of step-laddered me up. But I've worked at several different television stations in my career. But right now at WAND TV, the NBC affiliate, we serve Decatur, Champaign, and Springfield, Illinois, and Central Illinois. And
not only do you have a WIU connection with your degree, but you also have another WIU connection in your wife. You met at WIU?
Jane, my wife, Jane, she was a student there. And she was actually the manager of the International Sandwich Shop. I don't know if that's still there or not. It was right next to Domino's. It is. Is it really? Okay.
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. Well, she was a manager there for a few years, and she was a student going through different things, but she ended up graduating in 93 with the degree in English literature. But yeah, that's where I met my wife. How I met her was kind of a funny story. She actually, my sister Dawn was working for Jane, and my sister Dawn started choking on a sandwich during break. And Jane literally put the Heimlich maneuver on her and saved her life.
Oh, my God.
Well, when my sister had told me this, I said, well, I got to go thank her. So I met her. I asked her if she wanted to go out for a drink, and the rest is history.
That's awesome. What a great story.
Yeah, it sure is.
And you have some, and you want to talk a little bit about you've got this wonderful family and talk about your kids.
Yeah, I could talk about my kids during the whole podcast. I love kids. I wish I would have had a dozen. We have four. We have triplets that are 17 years old, 2 boys and a girl. The boys are identical. The girl had her own sack. They are going to a high school here, Warrensburg, in Warrensburg, Illinois. And then after the triplets were just getting ready to get out of diapers, and I thought, we're getting our life back because we were very structured. A lot of people say, man, 1 was hard. How did you do it with 3?
Yeah.
If you put them on a plan, you put them on a structure, it's a lot easier than a lot of people think. And these were great babies. I mean, they slept after 2 weeks, but you put them on, they start crying, we're not going to get you. You got to go to sleep. This is the time. So we've been kind of structured all the way through. And then I've got a 13-year-old. So when they're getting ready to get out of diapers, my wife said, I'm pregnant. I'm like, ow. What are you talking about? We're just getting our life back. But boy, we're very blessed.
Yes.
Great kids.
Great blessing.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about what it was like for you before you came to WIU. You mentioned that you had moved around to different places, but you feel like your home is in Northwest Illinois. You want to talk a little bit about what it was like growing up, and at least through high school, and some of the things that may have influenced you?
Well, Savannah, Illinois. There's no H on the end. It's up there by Hanover and Galena and East Dubuque, Illinois. I do call that my home. I lived in 4 different homes there. I was just there actually a couple of weeks ago for my 35th class reunion, and 3 out of the 4 homes that I lived in have now been leveled, so they're no longer there. So it was, not a very rich town at all. It's got 3,100 people in it now. Its heyday is when they had the Army Depot. When they had that arsenal there was like 6,500 people, full infantrymen going in and out of the joint. I mean, they had air shows with military planes. In fact, I remember when I was a kid that we were all, doing our thing there. They had a little fair going on out there, and all of a sudden everybody hit the ground because nobody said anything, but these fighter jets flew over us. I mean, it felt like 10 feet above our heads. I'm sure it's a couple hundred feet, but it was so loud that everybody fell to the ground. And the speed of the plane at that time, we're talking 40, 45 years ago, they could get from Chicago, Illinois to Savannah, which is 155 miles, in less than 4 minutes.
Wow.
I mean, just boom, boom, boom. It was fantastic. But yeah, I grew up, it's right on the Mississippi River. I mean, they've got bluffs up there, the Palisades State Park. They have bald eagle nests all over the place. Now it's more known for a lot of motorcyclers go through that town. I think that's what's keeping the town afloat because they've shut down the Army depot. But it was great memories for me. In high school, I won class clown all 4 years. I don't know if anybody wants to brag about stuff like that, but when they shouted my name over the loudspeaker in the last week of my senior year, I literally jumped up and just started cheering. And my Lewis Lenhart, he was my chemistry professor. He's like, Koenig, just sit down one time, just sit down. But I had a lot of fun in high school. I had a lot of fun in college. It was great years, that's for sure.
And Western got you as a transfer, and that was to our advantage that you came in already seasoned and I think better focused, weren't you?
Yeah. When I went to my first school, I was more involved with the party side and played a lot of pool, made a lot of money shooting pool. That's how I paid for my pizza on the weekend and stuff like that. And it just wasn't really focused enough. I thought I was going to go into accounting and then criminal justice. And then I went into the sciences. And, I think that sometimes, as we were talking about a little bit earlier, is that when you're 18, you kind of got a strict household. All of a sudden, you're 100% free. And then you start saying, hey, I can do this and I can do that. And I can do this. And then you start pulling away from why you're there. And so I kind of regrouped after Illinois State. And then I ended up going to Highland Community College up in Freeport. I met a lot of great professors there that were rooting for me. They knew that I had the talent. I just had to apply myself.
Right.
I'm always moving. I'm always the fast talker and stuff like that. And they said, Clay, you could really do something if you just sat back, concentrated, focused a little bit. And, that was the beginning. And once I graduated that school, that's when I went to Western. And Western, to me, even though it was a blur, it was so important because it was in depth in the focus that I finally found the interest in. And then I had all these professors like you and Roger and Sharon pushing me. You knew I had it. I remember one time, Buzz, and I don't know if you remember this or not, but I was doing a speech in your class and I said SHIT during the speech. And I did it because it wasn't really to be cool. I always thought I was cool. It was just to kind of loosen everybody up. But when you and I had talked about that afterwards, you said content was good, but you don't have to do something like that for effect. You can do it in other ways. And I kind of, put that in the brain. I'm like, the guy's right. He's a lot smarter than I am. That's why he's a professor. But I kind of took that to heed. And even though sometimes I still have a potty mouth, it's memories like that kind of stick with you. They'll stick with you for the rest of your life. You weren't mad. You didn't scorn me. You just said, we just have content here and you don't have to do that to be effective in your speech. And I thought, hey, the guy gave me a break. I'm going to respect that and I'll move forward with it.
Wow. I don't remember that. I think I was early in my teaching career, but I appreciate that you took that to heart. And then
absolutely.
You also got involved. Let's talk about some of the things that you were doing in broadcasting, because I think you were involved with football productions.
Yeah, football production and a little bit of news. And I tell you, one of my favorite was being on the sideline. I remember I had a competitor, John Turner. I've kind of lost touch with him now. I see him on Facebook once in a while. But John Turner and I were always grouped together. And we always like to talk over each other. Well, I'm going to talk louder than anybody if I have to. So I remember there was one play when we were watching this. And I think we were doing like a high school championship game or something like that. We were doing something extra on the side. But this guy's running down the sideline. And I was the color guy. He was the play-by-play. And I was trying to say the guy's moving, and then John and I started over talking. But just memories like that. We laughed about it afterwards. There's high pressure in your productions at WIU. Sharon did not mess around. I'll never forget, especially when the news is going on, if there was a mistake being made, this lady was ready to just take that sword out and just start slashing and dashing. She did not, tough as nails, but students need people like that to push them,
Right.
Yeah.
I agree that the breakdowns on the newscasts, which I think for some people, when they would get that sort of real feedback on whether it was, how their package went or how they handled reading a story or anything like that, they felt that, they took personal, which I understand. But, as when you get into the professional world, people are going to be very critical. Now, you have to understand that that's part of the business.
Yeah, and it's interesting because now being as a general manager of a station, it's my job to be critical, to critique. But, it was interesting on my career all the way up, mostly from the sales side, rough, tough. You had managers that, you felt like you're on a Navy ship with. I mean, these guys were, look, if you're not making budget, you're out of here, and that's all there is to it. So you kind of get that fear of loss. I've got to go harder, go harder, go harder. My first station was at WGEM TV in Quincy, Illinois. And I had a sales manager that really wasn't that effective. He was part of the family. So I think that's why he had that position. I still respected that position. But I started on the Ides of March on March 15th, and I did not get my first sale until May 5th. I was literally on the verge of getting canned. And they had this contest called the Secret Account. And basically, top management went out and already established a rapport with the client that was in the area of Quincy, Illinois. And they said that if you are a secret account, we'll give you 50% off. So if you're spending $3,000, it'll only cost you $1,500. We want somebody to search out and knock on doors of every business, in the process, picking up new clients along the way, but to find this secret account. So I don't have two nickels to rub together. I got my suit from a thrift store. It was jet black. I remember that day of the secret account list. It was over 100 degrees. I was driving a Chevy Chevette. The floorboards were gone. So my father and I had put plywood at the bottom of these floorboards. That way the water wouldn't splash up if you went over a puddle. And I remember that, I've got all these things going on. And I mean, it's just so different back then, because you just have to move forward. So Quincy, Illinois is like a grid system where they have like all trees on streets like this way, horizontal, and then vertical is more like numbers of streets. And I would park my Chevette and I'd start knocking on doors. And there'd be some days where I would literally knock on 50 doors. And I'm in the heat. I remember one time I was getting heat stroke. I rushed into a restroom and I started putting water on a guy was there, and he said, man, he goes, you're going down, because my face was beat red. He goes, I want you to take some water and splash it on the back of your neck, and then take your wrist, because that's where a lot of heat comes from, under that water. And he kind of saved my bacon, because I'm just walking these streets over 100 degrees in a black suit and tie, and I'm trying to find the secret account. So I'll never forget, I'm at the edge of town, and I noticed that the edge of town is something like 38th Street or 40th Street. And I see this winding country road, and my car is parked. So I put my jacket over my shoulder. I start walking down this lane. Lane's probably a mile and a half, because I saw some businesses and smokestacks in the difference in the background. So I get up to this Quincy overhead door. I'll never forget it. I walk in the door. I give him a sales pitch. And then he says, we're really not interested in advertising. I said, okay. I said, thank you for your time. Here's my card. I always hand out my card. And as I'm walking out the door, I said, I never asked the guy about the secret account list. I said, maybe I should go back. So I go back, I walk in the door, and I knock on the door again. And I said, hey, I got one more question. I said, are you the secret account list? And he goes, what did you say? I said, are you the secret account? He goes, just hold on a second. So he goes in the other room and he pulls out the other brother. I guess they were owners. They come back out, and all of a sudden somebody shot some type of confetti. This was the secret account. They come in and they're shaking my hand and all that. I'm like, oh my gosh, I almost did not ask the question, because I was so frustrated what was going on during the day. But I ended up found I found the secret account. So I made the sale that week. That was May 5th. The next week I made one sale. The next week it was 3 sales. The week after that was 8 sales. So the light bulb goes off. So my bosses pull me in, and they're like, look, Koenig, you've been here a couple of months. You haven't had any sales. Now you've got 13 or 14 or all these BS. I mean, what's going on here? I said, no. I said, guys, that light bulb went off for me. And in that first year and a half that I was there, I put on over $287,000 of new local direct business that's never been on the station before. And that's a record that probably still sits today, because I was just a new business guru. And in my mind, I look at it as this. If I can, concentration is the key to all economic success. So if I can have them play as many spots as possible in the shortest time period possible, that's when it's going to become most effective. People are going to think that they're all over the air all day, and I'm only taking 1 week out of the year. And using that vertical stacking technique, that concentration, that has really taken my career off a different path. I mean, I started going to different stations, larger markets, making more and more, and just trying to explain to these local clients. I'm always working with agencies, and the agencies come and go. And I'm telling these people, if you ever get involved with television, agencies come and go. The clients are there forever. Those are the people you have to have the rapport with. Those are the people you have to have the relationships with.
Well, when you mentioned that, you were this close to maybe not having that future. And even before that, I think you mentioned you had sent out, is this right? 200 resumes looking for your first job. I mean,
before graduation.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and it just ties in with the wife story. So my wife was English literature. I wasn't very good at writing my thoughts on paper for papers. So the deal was, and she didn't know how to type. So I was typing 80, 90 words a minute. I was very fast with the fingers and stuff like that. So the deal was I would type up her papers and she would critique mine and circle for punctuation and everything before I handed them in to you guys for the professors. So that's how we kind of grew together in doing that. And then for her birthday, I think it was like a couple years after we were married, I got her Mavis Beacon for typing. So now she types. Now she doesn't need me anymore. So she knows how to type herself.
Get your own feedback, buddy.
I set out over I think it was like 207 resumes. I got a couple of calls. There was a job opening down in Quincy, Illinois for an account executive. And I thought, hey, I can talk and I can certainly hustle if somebody tells me to hustle. So I ended up this interview process. The first interview was with the sales manager that I was talking about in the beginning. And then after that, he sent me to Leo Henning, who was a director of operations. After that second interview with Leo, it was down to me, and they had a couple hundred people apply for this position. It's not like it is today where you can get a job almost everywhere with these 9 million, because of COVID. Everything was locked tight up. I mean, you really had to know somebody to get in. And John and Leo thought that the other guy was going to be more effective. So Ralph Oakley, and I'm sure anybody in the communications business just know this guy just sold his business for $925 million. It closed a couple of weeks ago. I mean, this guy he has built an empire, and his name's Ralph Oakley. And the interview was this, Buzz, I'm not kidding you. So I've already been through 2. They've already told me they like the other guy better. I've got to do something different. I come in, I introduce myself. I shake Ralph Oakley's hand. He says, sit down, because he was the acting general manager at that station right there. They also owned the Herald, or the newspaper there as well. They owned Muzak. They owned a couple radio stations as well. And he said, Clay, sell me this pen. That was the interview. And I'm like, when he said it, I'm not kidding you, Buzz, I felt like a bolt of lightning went through me. I was like, you got to be kidding me. And I've got all these thoughts in my mind. And I said, I'm glad you asked, Ralph. So I picked up the pen. I said, notice how it writes. I said, it's so smooth. I said, these usually go for about $6.50 a piece. But I said, if you buy them in bulk, and I walked around his desk and I got on one of his papers, didn't know if it was important or not. I said, notice how the ink flows and I'm writing stuff like that. And look how I can sign my name. And I said, these are $6.50 a piece. I bet for you, slapped him right in the back of the shoulder. And I said, $3.99. And he said, all right, sit down. And I started talking to him. I ended up getting the gig. And during that time, this was my life. Okay. So I graduate in 92. Jane graduates in 93. We get married in 93. So now I'm starting my career. I'm living in Macomb, Illinois, traveling 77 miles back and forth to Quincy, Illinois for this gig. I'm driving this 78 yellow beat up Nova at the time with the mag wheels that just takes a full tank of gas to get down to Quincy. I remember all these vehicles coming through. And my day was trying to sell advertising during the day. They knew that I had some chops at WIU with broadcasting. So they created this other network, this brand new network called Fox. And they bought it as their secondary station, low power. So WGEM was the NBC affiliate, and then CGEM TV was the Fox affiliate. And we covered football and basketball for sports. And I said, well, look, you're good at it. We're not going to pay you for it, but we want you over there. We want you doing the color man, because I showed them some of these tapes. And you know me, I'm always going to be self-promoting. Hey, I'm going to Ralph Oakley. Ralph, look at this tape. Look how good this tape was. I'm always pushing. I'm like, boy, we got to put a leash on this guy. But they let me do that. And then I was working at an off-track betting parlor during the night when there wasn't any sports going on. So I'm always constantly working. When I was at WIU, I was a bouncer, and I worked as a bartender at Swanee's office, the biker bar that was.
Oh, sure.
And I had a blast up there. I met the best people in the world. They thought I was a cop. I have this beautiful hair combed to the side. I'm clean cut. I'm in with all these long hairs and these guys that are, construction workers and just, roughnecks, and they thought I was a cop for the first 6 months, and they said, this guy's a cop. This guy's got a reporting. But once they found out that I wasn't a cop, they became, friends that I still have today. And I tell you, with bikers, if you ever get in any trouble and they got your back, you'll have truckloads where you need them to be in a second. Now we're getting off topic here, but I'm just telling you about the other side, but all these relationship building things. And with bartending, I thought it was great because you're half psychologist. I could carry a conversation with one guy at the end of the bar all the way to the lady at the end. And if you came in my bar one time, Buzz, and you ordered something, you come back a year later, I'm going to remember what you drank. I remember phone numbers and drinks. I don't know why. I don't even drink. I'm not a drinker right now, but I just remember phone numbers and drinks.
Wow. And, that gives you an indication. And I hope that young people that watch this realize that maybe they have some of the same personality, because I think that you were destined for what you were going into, whether you knew it or not. And I'm not sure at that young age, you're just pushing ahead. You're not really thinking, okay, this is definitely what I'm meant to do. But you leave from Quincy, and your next stop is down in Texas. Is that right?
Yeah. So my marketing director, who was my boss's boss when we were in Quincy, I didn't like the guy immediately. And I told him, I'm one of those guys that I've always been described as what you see is what you get. There's really no behind. I mean, this, Buzz. I don't pull any punches. I don't beat around the bush. I just come right out and say what I feel, which for the most part really probably isn't the smartest thing to do. But I feel like we've got everybody on the same page. And it's the same thing with me as a boss now. I make sure that these guys know that we're on the same page. If you don't communicate, you can't get on the same page. If you can't get on the same page, you're not going to get success in what you're trying to do, So I always believe that, you just got to put it out there and say it. But my marketing director, who I said I didn't like, instead of him firing me, this guy has got a 3.5 carat diamond on his pinky. He's driving a red Porsche. I'm driving this Chevette, and I see this guy with these fancy clothes. So instead of firing me, he goes, you know what? He goes, I like you. I see talent in you. Let's take you out to the mall. He spent $250 of his own money on me for buying clothes because I only had that one black suit. He probably gave me 100 ties. This tie might be 50 years old. I still wear some of his ties. Just a memory. He's passed on now. But he really just pulled me in and taught me the business. My very first mentor. And I'll tell you, talking to the students, to you directly, if you can find a mentor, whether it be a professor, whether it be a friend or somebody in the business that you're looking at, or just something that you're interested in, if you have a mentor, you will do so much better because they've been where you're at. You need to listen to those stories. My father being gone now for almost 30 years, I wish I would have listened to his stories more. That's my only regret. You're 16, 17 years old, you're ready to go out there and party with your friends, and your father's trying to tell you a lesson. And you say, Dad, my friends are here. I got to go. I just wish I could turn back that time and say, friends, you stay out there as long as you want. Let me listen to the old man here because he's got something important to say. Don't go outside with your hair wet. All these things that you tell your dad that he's crazy, you say the exact same thing to your children. And it's like, this is my father talking kind of thing. So anyway, this marketing director becomes general manager of the station down in Texas, KMID TV, upside down cereal bowl. Literally, it looks like a flying saucer, the building does. I could literally jump on the side of the roof and climb all the way on the other side. And was next to a military airport where they had the B-1 bombers and stuff. These guys, military personnel carrying the guns and stuff. So I'm working at that television station and I did great. I mean, I brought my vertical stacking techniques there and actually I was working for one of the youngest general sales managers. Her name was Amy Hancock. She was less than 25 years old getting a GSM gig. In the United States, that's pretty tough to do, being that young and really being second in command of the station. So I worked for her for about 3 years. And I thought, you know what? I've got 5 years underneath my belt. I want to start managing. And I think I can do that, but I want some larger market experience. So on my dime on Friday, I would drive to Dallas from Midland, and then I'd fly Southwest from Dallas to Nashville, Tennessee. Nashville was getting ready to get a hockey team. They were getting ready to get a football team. And I thought, if there was any market in the United States that's getting ready to explode, this is it. So I started interviewing at all the different stations, showing them what money I made for each station that I've been with so far, which is only 2. And this guy said, are you just going to keep coming back here every Friday until I hire you? And I said, yes, that's the plan. And his name was Mark Arminio. He's mentor number 2. He hired me and I started working for Young Broadcasting. And look, I will tell you stories. It wasn't your regular sales operation, especially with me involved. I was just talking to a buddy of mine that I work with the station last week. And he was talking, he goes, do you remember when look, I was kind of a rotund guy. We all know, good sized guy, but I always thought that I could run and jump with the best of them. So I would line up 6 AEs on the floor and I'm running down the hall to prove to them that I can jump over 6 people. This is going in a business setting in Nashville, Tennessee, I mean, where I would just kind of bring the personal flavor, into the office setting. And that's another thing where, kind of what you see is what you get. I mean, I could write books on some of the things that we pulled off stunt-wise, in the office. So I ended up going there, and that young GSM down in Texas became the local sales manager, a step down, but definitely not a lateral move because it's a much larger market, at the Sinclair station there, WZTV in Nashville. She stole me from the station that I went and got hired, and she stole me over there. That they ended up blowing her out like in 3 months. I don't think they got along, or it didn't work out, and she was no longer there. So now I'm a man in an island with this huge corporation, Sinclair, for about 3.5 years. And it was quite the experience, let me tell you. Quite the
Wow.
experience.
What's amazing already in telling your career path is that you really bet on yourself, and decided that, I am going to do whatever I can.
And you have to do that if you want to get ahead. And, I've told my kids that ever since the crib, I taught them how to shake hands. My wife's like, what are you doing? I said, well, they're going to have twice as many competitors that I did.
Right.
So they need something to stand out. So when I'm shaking my kids' hands in the crib and introducing myself, to this day, if they go up to anybody, the 17-year-old or the olds or the 13-year-old, they'll come up, look in the eye, grab a firm handshake, introduce themselves, and ask how you're doing today. And when you've got a kid that's not buried in the phone with the hoodie up and everything like that, like we went up to the reunion, they're like, first of all, we can't believe that these kids are coming from you because we know how you are. I've become more the structured father, because I don't want them to make the same mistakes I did.
Yeah.
And I'm very open with my children. I tell them everything that I've been through because I was known as a black sheep in my family. I don't want them to feel that way. That's a lot of pressure. But for me, I kind of got a kick out of it. I get a little bit of enjoyment, but I want to show them the right path. Everything's a fork. If you see these people on the street begging for money, what fork took them to that route? What was it? They're a student just like I was at one time. What different path did they take to end up like that? And are they happy with it? If they're happy with that, God bless them. Go for it. You don't have any pressures of work, the pressures of getting money every day to eat. Yeah. But I mean, what fork took them down that road? But, when I was done with Nashville, I was actually talking about becoming a local sales manager up in Anchorage, Alaska, for a guy who owned the station down in Texas. You never burn a bridge in this business, guys. It's like we're a fraternity sorority and we just kind of switch jobs across the United States. I mean, it's very interesting how tight, grip these couple thousand people are in the United States running these television stations. It's totally different compared to any other business that I've been involved with. This is a very close, communications is as close as it gets. It really is. And I was going to go look at a station up in Anchorage, and I met a general manager up in Chicago getting ready for my flight. And he ran stations in Eau Claire and La Crosse, Wisconsin. And he goes, before you go up to Anchorage, he goes, I will make you an offer right now to take over Eau Claire, Wisconsin. It was a satellite office. So there's no TV station there. It was just the sales office of the TV station that was 88 miles away down in La Crosse, Wisconsin. And I end up taking the gig because I'm not, I need sunlight. If I don't get sunlight, I get cranky. It's no bueno for anybody. So I need sun. I don't know why I'm in Decatur because we get about 186 days a year, but I need the sun. So I take this job, and it was right after Thanksgiving, Buzz. So I'm there for the weekend after Thanksgiving. It is 30 below zero the first 3 mornings. And I'm staying in a hotel that's down the street from this little satellite office. And I'm thinking, what in the hell did I just do? I'm going to freeze my tush off. This is no good. But I walk in there, and I've got like 6 or 7 people at the satellite office. And I produced a culture of never wanting to stop. And the culture that I had was, what our goal is to beat revenue from the main television station down on the cross, where all the operations are, the production, the engineering, the satellite towers, the sales offices. So they had it both. So I started the week after Thanksgiving. So it was November, beginning December. And by the middle of February, my satellite office is outbilling the main television station down on the cross. So my owner, Milton Grant, guys, look him up because he's passed away now from pancreatic cancer. It's too bad because his father lived to be 103, and he was asking his father's advice to lose 102. But this Milton Grant had his own New York television program on the big network. His voice was like butter. I mean, his voice, my wife used to love when he called the house. Milton called. And this guy's like, 75, 80 years old, but his voice was phenomenal. And I go and I meet him down in Florida and stuff. And we went plus 37% the first 2 years. The third year, we went plus 42. So here I'm just stacking, big stacks of cash for this owner. So he gets on the phone in the middle of February and we're with the big boss and we're with all the other bosses. And he goes, Clay, he goes, what is your secret? How are you placing all this money? And excuse me here, Buzz, but I'm going to say a little swear word. I said, Mr. Grant, I said, I put my foot in their ass. And there's dead silence. And everybody's like, oh my God, he's going to get fired. And this owner with the voice just starts laughing and laughing. I must have hit the funny bone just perfect, because either this guy's going to clip me right here or he's going to yell at me in front of everybody, embarrass me. He starts laughing. He goes, you are now the director of sales over both stations. I mean, it was just that. It's so funny how things work out. And, this guy I fell in love with. I mean, this guy was so good to me. I'll never forget when Jane was pregnant with the triplets. So here we are in Eau Claire, La Crosse. He goes, Clay, he goes, I'm going to give you $20,000 this year as a bonus and another $1,000 for each kid being born. So he sent me a check for $23,000 because I had a fantastic year for him. And I tell you, back then, I mean, my first year in this business, guys, I made less than $19,000. Made less than $19,000. The bonus that I get only 5 years later just pales. I mean, it conquers my whole first year in the business, as far as monetary wise.
Wow.
So I just, I just had such a great time. I was there 5 years to the day, almost 5 years, because that was my contract was 5 years. Then I wanted to start to manage in the larger markets. So I, of course, like I said, never burn a bridge. I'm back with Young Broadcasting now at WATE-TV down in Knoxville, Tennessee. And I'm down there for about a year and a half. And Mr. Young, Vincent Young, he was the owner of the group. He said, can you please take care of the station up in Lansing, Michigan? So we went from Knoxville, Tennessee up to Lansing, Michigan. And that was a CBS affiliate. That was WLNS. And I was there for about 3.5 years. And, I don't want to make this a money thing, guys, but we all need money to survive. But, Mr. Young's business went bankrupt because of KRON TV, which was the NBC affiliate in San Francisco, California. He had 10 television stations. And at that time, San Francisco was in the top 5 in the markets. The valuation of that television station was $880 million. Okay, that's what the station was worth. NBC came to him and said, look, we want you to pay us $2 million a year to remain your NBC affiliate. Otherwise, we're going to take this and we're going to give it to someone else. Well, Mr. Young at the time, he said, nuts to you. It's not happening. So they yanked the NBC affiliation. The valuation of the station went from $880 million to $150 million overnight. And that created the bankruptcy. And what he was doing, he was a pioneer in saying no to retrans. Before, when I was working at all these other stations, every week, I called it the green weenie. It was on a green bar sheet. I'd find out how much ABC, NBC, or CBS sent me because I was an affiliate of them. They paid us to become the affiliate. Yeah. When Fox was created, he said, no, we don't do it that way. They should pay us. So now everybody has flipped the script. So now we pay NBC to become their affiliate. Every station across the United States now pays millions of dollars a year toward their main network to remain licensed under that affiliation. So the whole script has changed. So what he did in the beginning was a pioneer for negotiation, but he sacrificed his company in doing so. I have the utmost respect. And I'll tell you something funny, guys, when I'm talking about, goofing around and stuff like that. The first time I met Vincent Young, here's this owner, this multimillionaire that owns all these stations, and he's giving a speech to his people. And I have got a BlackBerry at the time, and I've got my BlackBerry set up against my glass as he's talking because I'm watching my Cubs. I'm watching the scores of my Cubs game at the same time that he's talking. So he goes to the second biggest boss in the whole company, goes, is this guy crazy or what? And Dan Batchelor, another mentor of mine, he goes, what do you mean? He goes, I think he was watching a baseball game while I was up there talking. And they both approached me. And this is me again, just getting away with murder. He goes, Clay, is this true? Are you watching are you watching your baseball game while Mr. Young is talking? And I look at both and I said, hey, I can walk and chew gum at the same time. And Mr. Young just starts laughing. He could have clipped me right there, but he starts laughing. And then at the end of the at the end, before I left the company, he said, there's not a bullet big enough to kill this guy. He goes through anything, knocks down any door, whatever it takes to get it done. I mean, that was me. I mean, there were times I was literally knocking on over 50 doors a day. And even my boss is like, no, you didn't. So I bring out my stack of business cards of 50 and put them on the table. I said, I'm going to lie to you about it. I said, we got to move. We got to move forward. We got to keep getting bigger and better. And they love that energy. And I still have that. Look, I'm 53 years old. I feel like I'm 17 years old. I mean, I'm ready to go. Let's go.
And authentic as ever. And so let's get to, how did you get back to Illinois? Because you're crisscrossing across the Midwest. How did you get back to?
So I go to my fourth mentor, Don Carmichael. I was the acting general manager because he was gone 3 weeks out of each month. He was also the general manager for WBAY, the ABC affiliate in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So he'd fly across the pond back and forth. And I was taking care of the station while he was gone. And when we were going to go bankrupt, you lose your equity, you lose your shares, you lose everything. And I went to him and I said, is this a good time for me to leave? I said, because I don't know what's going to happen. Are they going to get bought out? And then I was a general sales manager at the time, acting general manager. Am I going to lose my job? I just wanted to be secure because I've got 4 kids at home now. I've got to feed my family. And my boss was very open and honest. He goes, Clay, I love you. He goes, I wish you'd stay. The smart thing for you to do is to go. Excuse me. And that's what I did. And then 3 days later, I was down here in Central Illinois. When you have the experience and you can show them the numbers that you've done, Buzz, you can pretty much go anywhere. And truthfully, I love my school. I love Western. I loved ISU. I loved Highland. But I mean, Illinois is pretty rough right now. And sometimes it's not that attractive to go to a place where it's kind of rough. I've told my kids about Illinois, that it's going to be a long time before the state, gets out of arrears on what's going on. But, that's a different conversation. I'm here, but now I'm here for the long haul because I got here. I was hired as a general sales manager. A year and a half later, they made me director of sales. 2 years after that, they made me vice president. 5 years after that, they made me station manager. And then as of a little over 2 weeks ago, they named me as the new president and general manager of the station.
Wow.
And what I have done, because I've asked, I want to find out what people have been through. What do they feel about it? Stuff like that. And what I do now I've got 91 employees here. And my first 2 weeks, and I probably have another 6 to 8 weeks to go, is I bring in every single employee. And they knew me as a sales guy. I'm kind of rough, kind of loud, kind of bombastic. I understand. But in this position, it has to be more of a calming influence because we're going to have rocky paths ahead of us. And now they know that was just for that section. But the secret, I believe, of a good general manager is culture. That's one of the most important things, especially in this day and age, because everybody's always looking at the mind. How does it affect your mind? Look, in my old days, and same thing in this ways, in a lot of ways. Look, if you're sad, tough. Go out and watch a blue sky for 5 minutes, you'll be fine. I always had that attitude that, nothing's going to bring me down kind of thing. But I want to show them, I think the secret is to have good managers in place to run. I'm just steering the boat, making the hard decisions. But these guys, I want them to grow professionally as well as personally. I give them my card or my personal cell phone number. I said, look, I don't care if it's 3 a.m, you got something to get off your chest. I'm your guy you want to talk to because I'll listen to anybody. Plus, I don't sleep that often. I average 4.5, 5 hours of sleep a night. I'm ready to go. So I'm up late at night. I start emailing my people 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. They know it's coming. Clay's up. Here come the emails. I just want everybody to be prepared and on the same page, like I said before. But they know that in this position, it's going to be a little different. Just got to have positive culture moving forward,
Well, let's talk about, again, what kind of recommendations you might have for students that are interested in the media business. You've kind of given some good clues already about the importance of networking and maintaining relationships.
Yeah, networking is very important. The relationships, of course, are very important, but you need to educate yourself. Our business, Buzz, right now is changing every single day. I mean, this digital that has come about. I mean, we had to build a digital division at the company to keep up with the Joneses. And we still started 5 years later than Sinclair and Nexstar, which are the 2 companies in my market. The disadvantage that I have is they have the bells and whistles and they've been there. The advantage that I have is they run their stations so lean, just looking for the profit margin, that it kind of takes away the morale in some of the ways. That's what I've noticed. Here, I'm very fortunate because I have an owner that reinvests in their station all the time. So like I have a 1,000,000-watt tower in the center of Illinois. It's the largest allotted by the FCC. I cater to 1.5 million people, 2+. Our coverage area is actually larger than Belgium. It's larger than Chicago's coverage area, but the population isn't nearly as dense. You guys have to know your business. There is no winging it anymore. I mean, that's all there's to it. And for Pete's sakes, get involved with the digital side of it. If you are involved with communications in any way, shape, or form, if you're not involved with the digital side, you're going to be left behind really, really quick, because this business is changing. But the relationships are important. The culture is important. Stay positive. Look, if somebody knocks you down, it's how you get yourself up. That's what makes the difference. I've been knocked down 50 times. I'm waiting for somebody to knock me down again. I'm going to get up and I'm going to bash them one. That's the way it goes. You knock me down, you're going to get it, and that's.
I also like that you had said that they really have to find out if this is something they want to do. If you're not enjoying it, then move on.
Look, I've literally had people come to me and said they've been unhappy for 30 years in their position. And the first thing I did was fire them. I am not going to be responsible for someone's unhappiness. If you're unhappy, I don't want you here. It's the best thing I ever did for these people. I remember Mark Arminio, I talked about my mentors. He said, you know what? If you get the gig, they're doing you a favor. If you don't, they're doing you even a bigger favor. What they're saying is, okay, it didn't work out, but there's something out there that's going to work out a lot better for you. Yeah, I mean, you really have to find your niche. I mean, and you've got to know your stuff. I mean, this business is changing all the time. And it is so, and I don't want to talk about my brothers and sisters like this, but we're all this big fraternity sorority, what I was talking about. Every single station I have been to, talking with people, I'm thinking, how in the heck did you get in this position? How in the world are you at where you're at? So what that tells me is that you can take a look at any business in the world, and it's not running to 100% efficiency. Some people might believe it's running to 100% efficiency, but boy, there are tweaks that you can make that you can flip-flop a business overnight, it seems like. And I mean, if there is a caustic person in the room in this section of the building, if that person is removed, the morale just shoots up like a rocket. It's amazing, but you really have to go into detail and find out what makes people tick, to see if it's going to be effective in doing something like that. But yeah.
Well, Clay, I appreciate the time that you spent with us today, and I tell you, I'm so happy for you.
Oh, thank you, Buzz. Hey, look, I would not be here without you. I would not be here without Roger and his daily banana. I would not be here without Sharon Evans yelling at everybody once in a while. And look, her yelling to me is loving me. That's the way, and when you figure that out, she just wants you to do better. Yeah. You can't make a mistake like that. I cannot thank Western Illinois University enough, because you were the platform that got me, to get me where I'm at today. And honestly, I have nothing but love and respect for you guys. I really do.
Well, thanks again. And hopefully we'll see you back in Macomb sometime in person in the near future.
Yeah. Love to sit down and have lunch with you, Buzz. My treat.
Absolutely, Clay. And remember, all those out there, thank you for watching our podcast every week. If you're interested in being a guest or you want to recommend somebody, please just send me an email. We always like to hear from our alums. We hope that you continue to watch and listen to the podcast, and really appreciate everyone's support. And so until next week, stay safe, take care, and God bless.